Well, the poll bugle has been sounded by the Election Commission of India, and elections will be taking place over the next few weeks, at least in 5 states. But the preparations are also underway for the general elections next week. How's the I.N.D.I.A Alliance looking at these elections, and how are the preparations from the opposition? Joining us is Priyanka Chaturvedi, who's the Rajya Sabha member and Deputy Leader of the Shiv Sena in the Parliament. Thank you very much, ma'am. I want to begin by asking you on the preparation for these, elections. But the I.N.D.I.A Alliance, which has come a few weeks back, also has a lot of contradictions. But how do you keep this entire flock together? Because, even if we look at I.N.D.I.A, in the past we've had several parties that have broken the ties with the I.N.D.I.A, including Akali Dal and others. So how does the Shiv Sena, the Congress and other regional political parties with so many contradictions go together? What is keeping you together?
I think if you look at how India functions, India keh lo, Bharat keh lo, Hindustan, whatever name that you call it, it's a land of contradictions. But that's the beauty of it, the unity in diversity. So when we call ourselves as argumentative Indians, that we all have an opinion of our own. There are contradictions in our opinions. But how do you debate, decide, dissent is something which is, ingrained in us. And I think this is a part of our civilizational values, not just part of our freedom movement and post-freedom India that we see, or post-republic India that we see. So, of course, there will be contradictions, there are going to be differences of opinions, and anyone saying, any alliance saying that we don't have any difference of opinion is actually lying to the people of this country. So, we are in a position where we can debate, dissent, disagree, but decide on a common consensus, and that is what I.N.D.I.A Alliance is all about. So, you may have different ideas of how you want to function in your area or your state. But when you come to the idea of India, you're very clear. You're looking at an inclusive India, an India which follows its constitution, which remembers its democratic principles, which we are seeing harmed every single day. We're not talking about the people anymore. We're talking about a Prime Minister who has self-glorified himself so much, where he's only talking about himself. And that is a problem. You cannot become larger than a nation. The nation will always remain larger. So that is our idea, that we fight for our democracy, we fight for our constitution. We do not have scenarios where governments are being pulled down by using agencies. We cannot have a scenario where independent agencies are being undermined. So that is where that brings us all together, that we have to fight for the basic ethos of what we stand for.
You touched upon unity in diversity. India is a land of contradictions, but surely there would be something that you would be deciding on the lines of who the Prime Minister would be from the I.N.D.I.A Alliance, because one is of course the Congress party, one of the largest parties in the I.N.D.I.A Alliance, and of course ambitions of Rahul Gandhi of becoming the Prime Minister. But there are other regional parties with their own regional aspirations and perhaps national aspirations as well. How does one deal with that? Would you actually have a prime ministerial candidate in the run-up to the elections next year, or do you think that that is a matter you will decide later?
So, firstly, Congress has been pretty clear that they've got into the alliance to bring some kind of cohesion, bringing together of all parties which think alike, who have been victims of the kind of authoritarianism that we are seeing coming from the center. All the states have been victims, non-BJP states have been victims of partial behavior with them. We've seen how ED, IT, CBI have become the most prominent allies of the BJP. And that does not speak well for these agencies or the future of this nation, where none of the agencies can be trusted. And that is what is happening. You ask any citizen of this country, कि इसके घर पे छापे पड़े, they'll be like, he must be speaking against Modi. So that is what is happening. So now when you say prime ministerial phase, I think you're doing a huge disservice to the country. If we decide that this is our prime minister, imagine they have 38 allies, 37, 36, or maybe it's 35 now, plus the 3 prominent ones. Not a single person can say my party leader is capable of becoming the Prime Minister of this country. Why should not I aspire for my leader to become the Prime Minister? But does that lead to controversies? No. We also have a reality check. Whoever gets the numbers, whoever people would prefer, and elected representatives would prefer to carry forward the alliance, and if we get that majority, then it will be the people of this country who have voted for us, and those elected representatives of the people of the constituency will decide who the Prime Minister would be. And that is how it functions.
But Priyanka, in the past as well, I'm just stating the facts. In 2014 and 2019, there were attempts at making these alliances as well. But one of the major factors that there wasn't unity was the prime ministerial face. And are you saying that one thing that keeps the India alliance together is perhaps to unseat Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Is that the ultimate objective, or is there something else?
No, there is no objective to unseat Mr. Modi. What we're looking at unseating is the dictatorial tendencies that have seeped into the country, the tendencies of muzzling the press, the tendencies to harm the freedom of speech. You may say, oh, you are a vocal critic, but look what they've done to you. They've suspended me from the parliament. They've switched off my mics in the parliament. They've not given me a space to be able to put my point of view in the parliament. And that's not been the case in several instances. Now, having said that, unseating the idea of a person becoming larger than the nation, unseating the idea of not speaking about the unemployment, not speaking about the economic consequences the nation is facing, not speaking about women in distress, not speaking about farmers in distress, not speaking about the growing inflation around this country, not having enough data to even, identify who are the beneficiaries that we should have, and dismissing the entire, reports that keep coming in. So any report coming from international forums where it says Mr. Modi is the best prime minister of this country is accepted. But the same international forums, if they come and say, listen, democracy is at peril in India, you question them, you challenge them. So that kind of masculine idea of one idea, one agenda, one belief, one party, that is what we are unseating. And that is what we are working towards. Unseating this idea that you are bigger than the agencies. And these independent agencies cannot be used only for your, power setup. So those are things that we will be fighting about. It's not Mr. Modi. It's the idea behind what they stand for.
Sure. You spoke about the central agencies and the use by the BJP government in power. Recently, we've seen, not recently, perhaps for months and years, we've seen, of course, Satyendra Jain issue. Then we had the Manish Sisodia. Supreme Court spoke about it. There were several others who spoke about it as well. And now we have Sanjay Singh as well. You met the family of Sanjay Singh. How do you see this entire case developing? Because what the BJP really says, what the government really says, that they have proof, and they will be providing that proof inside the courts, stating that there was a liquor scam, there was an excise policy scam. Or do you actually think that this is a political vendetta against them?
I definitely think it is more politically motivated. And I have my reasons to do so, and I shall explain. There are few figures that we need to have in mind when we are speaking about the entire Enforcement Directorate, IT, CBI. Over fourfold increase in ED investigations on opposition leaders, politically motivated investigations. 95% of them happen to be from the opposition. Conviction rate is less than 3%, 9.5 years. And even if you take the so-called scams before 2014, none of them have been able to be verified or led towards conviction. Now, in this particular case, there could be some irregularities that have happened. Unfortunately, ED hasn't been able to make a case even in the past since the past 15 months. Just a week prior to this discussion, there was a discussion happening in the Supreme Court on the Manish Sisodia's bail. And the Supreme Court said, if you were to put this, whatever evidence you're showing to me, in the trial court, it would be dismissed. So what is the evidence that they're talking about? I'll give you another case. Go back to a year ago where Sanjay Raoji, when party was splitting and Sanjay Raoji was speaking prominently, he was put behind bars, ED under PMLA laws. He was in the jail for over 3 months. His bail hearing, when it came under the PMLA court in Mumbai High Court, it clearly said a civil case has been converted into a criminal case by the Enforcement Directorate and has put a man behind bars for no guilt of his. What does it speak? This is a validation of what I'm saying about political vendetta. You have CBI, ED, IT going after. If you look, name me any of these people who they're going after are people of opposition. Those who've bended because of this intense scrutiny by the ED, CBI, IT are today have got a clean sheet from the BJP, or their cases have gone into a deep freeze and they're with the BJP. 48 hours prior to Ajit Pawarji becoming a part of the alliance in Maharashtra, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, from an election platform, had said he has done scams worth 70,000 crores. How do I dismiss all of this? And how does this all go away, get washed away, because now he is part of you? Harshvardhan Patil moved from the Congress to the BJP. He says, I sleep very peacefully now because I know ED, CBI, IT won't go after me because I'm in the BJP. They're openly talking about it. So then I definitely feel, even with in this particular case, the series of arrests that have been made, and not getting bail does not really mean that they stand convicted. Not getting bail is also a process which has become the punishment, and a process where ED is going on putting in some supplementary charge sheet while not being able to produce that evidence.
Priyanka, you have very fair questions against the government, against the Enforcement Directorate, but I have to be the devil's advocate.
Absolutely.
You know, I.N.D.I.A Alliance also came up with a list of journalists that, you know, these are the anchors and journalists we will not speak to. Isn't that also muzzling the press? Because, you know, people will talk about the emergency that Indira Gandhi had put in. People will talk about that, you know, if the same Congress or the same Shiv Sena or the I.N.D.I.A Alliance questions the BJP on, you know, having their own media or muzzling the press or arresting journalists, isn't this the same?
No, it's not, and I'll tell you why. Muzzling the press is where I put a stop to what you're saying, where I don't allow you to speak, where I don't allow you to do your debates, where I don't allow you to even have a show or have a channel or have a job, or arresting you on frivolous charges. That's muzzling the press. We are saying, in this case, the difference is, we are saying, please continue to have your discussions. Please continue to talk about anything under the sun. Please continue to abuse us if that makes you feel better or if it gets you your TRP. Please put charges against us and don't speak on Manipur, speak on Israel. Don't speak on the Adani issue, but speak on 2G scam, 3G scam, Kaul scam, whatever scam you want to. But we don't participate in it. It's called the non-cooperation movement, which Mahatma Gandhi did. We are not going to be coming to the studios where it is not a fair platform, and it's a skewed platform where you're not asking. It surprises me that nobody says to the Prime Minister, even in his interviews that he chooses to do with a few, that why don't you take a press conference? You're a good communicator. You have effectively communicated with the people of this country. Take some of our questions. This total disregard of the media, we are not doing that. We are saying, please feel free to do whatever you want. Has anyone stopped Navika? Has anyone stopped Sudhir Chaudhary? Has anyone stopped Gaurav Sawant? Has anybody stopped various other names I won't recall? They are all doing their show. We are not present in it. That is the only difference.
You spoke about Manipur, and it won't be fair if I don't touch about Manipur. We've seen continuous violence for months together. We've seen perhaps the largest internet lockdown after Jammu and Kashmir in Manipur. There was fresh violence recently, and particularly women and children have been caught in this unfortunate conflict. How do you see things unfolding there? We've had visits from the opposition leaders as well, but do you think the government is doing enough? And if not, then what should the government do?
I think the first thing the government needs to think in its mind is that set some accountability. I haven't seen any leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is in government, both centre and the state, going there, except for, of course, Amit Shah ji going for relief work and to see how things are working, but to seek accountability. That's one. The total insensitivity of the video that went viral, and these women having to go to the Supreme Court saying that we don't trust our Chief Minister. That speaks a lot about their faith in the Chief Minister. You're not holding him accountable at all. And he says things are getting back to normal. The day you lift the internet shutdown, you see gory videos coming forward. And it speaks of the problems that have been created. I hate to say it, but I see our Indian channels rushing to Israel to cover from on ground whatever is happening, unfolding there. I did not see any of them make that effort to reach Manipur. It's a very important part of this nation. So when I seek when I say how can things get better, where you make Manipur your priority, you say for me this is very important. But the Prime Minister is not totally ignoring that part of the country, not even talking about it, not even tweeting about it, forget tweeting, not even showing a little bit of concern, except for when he was called for a no confidence motion, he coming and speaking in the parliament.
You know, when the Prime Minister came into power in 2014, I know that there was this huge campaign that Northeast is an integral part of India. There were ministers from Northeast, including Kiran Rijiju, who were in the Home Ministry, later Law Ministry, and now another ministry that has been given to him. So there was this entire campaign and narrative that Northeast is an integral part and we will mainstream Northeast as part of the entire country. Do you think that's missing now?
So if you talk about the focus on Northeast, yes, there were a lot of funds given to Northeast for the development of the Northeastern region to make it part of the mainstream. Unfortunately, when you see, even if it's a legacy issue, I say even if it's a legacy issue, we cannot indulge in whataboutery because these are important regions, these are border regions. These are regions which can lead to further problem for my nation. Then when you are giving them funds, you are looking at infrastructure development. If you see a trouble brewing, how do you cut short your issues and their problems and bring them all on the table to talk, all the stakeholders to talk? Now, when our opposition leaders went there, they said it's such a divided state right now. Between the tribes, the cookies are staying separately. They have demarcated shops. Maitis are, living in in a sense of not having faith in each other. There's a lot of trust deficit with the government, within the society. How do you, address these fragments that we've created? So yeah, I see when it comes to development, yes, you talk about it. You have representation in the cabinet. Great. One of the MOSMEA, his house was burned down in Manipur. And he said, the government machinery has totally collapsed. He's a minister, he's a sitting minister, MOS, Minister of State for External Affairs. His house was burned down. We had the chief minister's house being attacked, his private residence. The governor has spoken. So when it comes to a problem, might as well heal that problem. Imagine if this was to happen in the main city, in the capital city like Delhi. It was discussed, debated, whatever action was taken was taken. Or on a city like Mumbai, Chennai, wherever. Isn't Manipur a part of this nation? Just because it's low on population, it's in the, it's not in the realm of like how one popular journalist had said, tyranny of distance. We don't have that anymore. You have connecting flights, everything. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we prioritizing our own issues? That's my problem.
Well, we hope that there is some resolution in peace and calm that returns to Manipur, but to something positive, and that is the Women's Reservation Bill. How do you see this development really? We saw support from all ends, all ideologies for this, and perhaps better late than never. It was in talking for 27 years, and finally this moment has arrived. Your first thoughts?
So yes, when you say that the moment has arrived, yes, it did arrive, but unfortunately it arrived with zero clarity on when it is going to be implemented. It's like, it was something of course all of us welcomed. There was unanimous endorsement of the bill. Rajya Sabha had no red crosses against any seat, while Lok Sabha had two, we had none. And that's a moment of pride for this nation, that the entire nation has started to believe that women need representation. Till now it was a murky territory, the grey zones, that why not this, why not that. But what saddens me is that this is again a lollipop that you've given to the women. You've told the women, start queuing up at the parliament door, show us that you're interested in our assembly doors, but we will open the doors on the date and time of our choosing. So you can queue up. We validated this struggle of yours, you can queue up. We'd love to have you inside, but we will decide when we open these gates for you. You've not opened the gates for them. The 73rd and 74th Amendment that happened, it was implemented within a few months. So many people make, I was listening to a lot of these debates and I sat through every single person's discussion, said, oh, it is a very short timing and how will we implement it in 2024? No. So you go back to the 73rd and 74th Amendment for the local bodies. It was implemented within months, rolled out within months. And that was also a government which had total majority. After years, India has seen a single party majority which had committed in its manifesto, in its very first term, that they will bring this reservation. You delayed it by 9.5 years. Again, I don't grudge you that. Okay, you chose your timing. But in that 9.5 years, if you are passing an act by calling a special session, if you are passing an amendment by calling a special session and not giving me a date, then I'm sorry, I call it a jumla. I have a problem with that. The 2008 Act, which was cleared in the Rajya Sabha, did not go to the Lok Sabha, did not get passed in the Lok Sabha. 2008 Act also was about immediate implementation. That we get the ball rolling, set the ball rolling. What are we waiting for? कौन सा शुभ मुहूर्त, कौन सी शुभ तिथि? 27 साल हो गए लड़ते. So what are we waiting for? So this particular bill has said, okay, they've pegged it to two very important things. One is the census, which has not happened since 2022. The second thing is delimitation. Aditya, if you've been following delimitation, I've been following delimitation, we all know that those states which have done exceedingly well in controlling the population might end up suffering in terms of representation in the assemblies as well as in the parliament. While those states which haven't been able to control its population or hasn't worked towards it or hasn't prioritized it, I won't blame the states, but they haven't prioritized it for whatever reasons, lack of infrastructure, lack of ability, lack of good government, whatever. They will have a higher representation. How does that work? So this is definitely heading towards the Supreme Court whenever the delimitation happens, if it happens at all. And once it heads to the Supreme Court, we're not going to see this reservation being implemented. How could you peg it to two things like the census? And you are basically saying this. So right now we have 545. We will wait for the parliament to have more seats, and only then we'll make that space for you. You are not saying, hello, it has been a long time and you all haven't got these seats. So within this 545, we will give you these seats. Why can't you do that? It's absolutely doable. But you're running away from that.
But Priyanka, what I want to also understand is that why did it take 27 long years? Do you think it's all about patriarchy? Do you think that the Indian society, men, and particularly men in politics, were not ready for this across party lines, really? And that's why we've seen the BJP government, we've seen the Congress government, the UPA, I.N.D.A, the third front, but none of them perhaps were ready. There were small steps, yes, that were taken, but it took 27 long years.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And to work towards gender justice irrespective of your politics is a commitment which comes very rarely amongst people. I must say this. So there are many people paying lip service to the cause. There are many people who will say, yes, yes, it needs to be done, needs to be done. But when it comes to actual, discussion and debate of giving those rights, that's when you start creating those barriers. I'll take you back in history when the Constituent Assembly was debating this, and this topic had come up, that should we have reservation for women? There were 15 members in the Constituent Assembly who were women. They raised an objection to that. They said India is one of those forward-thinking countries in terms of its constitution, which is giving women equal rights to men. So you look at the European countries, the women had to fight to get their, for their ability to go to vote. In the United States of America, they had to fight that fight to even get a chance to vote. We got it as part of our constitution. Equality was the basic fundamental belief in how we treat across genders, across communities, across religion, across castes, identities. That was a forward-thinking constitution and we must take pride in it. Unfortunately, over the years, the patriarchal society created barriers, made women believe ये तुम्हारे लिए जगह नहीं है, क्यों इस गंदगी में पड़ रही हो? This is a man's fight, this is a man's fight. Then conditioning a woman to believe that politics is not for you, creating that unsafe environment for women to not be held accountable for your mistreating of women or your characterization of women in politics. It kept building, whether through movies, whether through television programs, whether through how women are perceived in politics. So yes, it's been a long fought journey. 27 years is a long fought journey for having local representation to having representation assembly and the parliament. But it's a journey well fought. But however, I would have wanted it to end because the reason when you say why it didn't happen, I say because most of the parties came as there were a lot of alliances, that there was not a single party majority. The historic 73rd, 74th amendment was because of a single party majority. It said, okay, if you don't want to support it, your problem. We think it is needed, we are doing it. That was the idea. Now here also in the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, many other opposition leaders had said, the minute you introduce it, we will support it, irrespective of politics. You could have done it. Didn't do it. But anyway, I'm not going to be judging that. It has happened. But I would want to know when it will be rolled out. When can women aspire to be in politics? That is my only question.
Priyanka, you yourself have had a long journey. I have at least been observing for the last 15 years. From Bombay, from leading social media campaigns to your journey in the Congress party and now Rajya Sabha and the Shiv Sena. Congratulations on that. But also, Priyanka, what are the difficulties and challenges you faced personally? I want to know your story. How easy or difficult was it for you from rising from Mumbai to New Delhi, rising from the social media to the Rajya Sabha?
Yeah, so those are, I think I came at the intersectionality of when social media was just about blooming in India. I understood the power of communication. I was a communication person. I understood what social media is going to do for the nation. It's going to end up giving us voices. Till now, as part of the civil society, so-called civil society, which is a tax-paying janta, which pays its taxes on time and then cribs about not having enough facilities and suffering the misgovernance for various reasons. Suddenly, it gave us the voice. It broke down those barriers to be able to communicate directly to those people who matter, who are in the positions of power. It also exposed a lot of them who were in positions of power, who we felt had brilliant ideas, but did not really match up to, when we had conversations with them. So that was one part of it. Coming from Mumbai to Delhi, yes, my own husband used to feel, how will you traverse this journey? You are in Mumbai, you have no political background, you don't have the kind of funds that we hear that people would need to even contest an election. What are we even talking about? What are you even struggling for? But I was very clear in my mind that if I have to be in politics, it will be national politics. And I would want to represent my state where I come from in the parliament, be one of those voices. So I've had character assassinations, I've had hit jobs done on me, I've had people when I was starting my journey in the Congress questioning my ability, people across political party lines talking about, ye to page 3 type hai, ye to party type hai. Theek hai, I'm a party. I may step out of the house, I may step out to meet friends, have a good dinner out, could have a good lunch out with friends. And I don't hesitate in sharing it on my social media platforms because my life is what it is. It is exactly like how you would lead your life. But I also understand my job responsibilities like you do yours. So those were the challenges I faced. But I would say that it has been a journey of a lot of learning, a lot of support coming from unexpected quarters at times. I remember when I moved from the Congress to the Shiv Sena, I felt that media channel will tear me apart. Not just media channels, but even print media, the traditional media spaces will tear me apart. But I saw a lot of support coming in because I think they realized that my cause was very genuine. I was not just making stuff up for better political opportunities. I was just very clear that there's a line you draw even in politics. Not every politician comes without a Lakshman Rekha. And that was my line. So that's how my journey has been.
Well, if I'm not wrong, Priyanka, in the past election, the women voters have really risen. There are much more women voters than men voters. What are the issues of women voters of India, and how do women leaders really contribute to nation building? Because there has been this hesitancy in men in politics to have women in power centers, in positions of strength. Do you think the men really are ready to accept women out there, and even if they are not, the women are going to occupy those places, and how would they really contribute to nation building?
I think, yes, you're absolutely right on that part, that women are now coming out in larger numbers and they're voting as per their choice, not what traditionally we felt, jo parivar vote karega, wahi mahila vote kar degi. It's not happening anymore. She's going on, the promises made and the commitments lived up to. For example, a woman when she comes out to vote, she looks at her immediate family. Has my family benefited out of this government? Have our costs risen? Have our incomes risen? Are we getting the educational benefits, health benefits that were promised? Are we getting the infrastructure we are seeking? Is this a nice, environment to live in? A woman looks at all these aspects. And even when she goes to vote, she's not just looking at herself. She's looking at her immediate environment. Her children, her husband, maybe her brother, her father. Or not just, I wouldn't reduce it to, she's thinking about her family, but she's thinking about the larger cause. So they are voting and they are making their votes very assertive, and every political party is now looking at that particular block. And women also want to see more women representation. So as a woman parliamentarian, I've always kept the cause of gender justice above my politics. And everybody knows that I will speak for the women of this country, and whichever section they come from, I will do that, I will prioritize that. Unfortunately, when it comes to seeking votes, women's issues are least of the priority. So you're paying lip service, okay. Mahila Sashakti-karan, Mahila Shiksha, Mahila Swasth, ye sab. But when it actually comes to prioritizing it, it doesn't happen. So I'm hoping to see a space where we can honestly discuss on what we are doing in terms of when Prime Minister spoke about G20, in the G20 about women-led development. How are we achieving those goals? And that has to be a debate which goes above our politics. Everyone's politics speaks about it. So as I can speak about myself, that I do it in that spirit. I don't see that spirit coming across the political spectrum.
You're also part of the Parliament Committee on Women Empowerment.
I'm not anymore.
You're not anymore, but you've been there.
Yes.
So what I actually want to understand from you is that you are passionate about it. Are all members as passionate as you? And perhaps you would expect that the Women Empowerment Committee would work in that same spirit in future as well?
Yes, so you know what disappoints me about such committees is, and I'll be very honest, that's only led by women. We have to look at partnering with the men, sensitizing them that, not that it's our burden to sensitize them, but for them to understand the challenges and struggles we face. So we have one male member, we had one male member out of all the 29 participants that were there. So what we are actually ending up doing are creating silos. For example, this reservation. Let's say one of the constituency is reserved for women. So you will see only women contesting. We have to create a condition in a society where a woman is contesting a male too, and beating the daylights out of him and coming in the parliament and feeling that satisfaction. So we have to condition it in such a way. So when you say about the equal passion, of course women are passionate about it. But women who are in the parliament because of the political party that they represent, for some reason, and I'm not accusing them, it is because it's such a small piece of the pie, they do not want to risk those chances of speaking beyond their, political party.
Right.
They don't do that. And that comes out of maybe fear, not fear, out of the feeling that maybe if I step out of turn, it may just end up messing up my political journey. My belief is that you have to make the share of the pie bigger. You can only make it bigger when women who are owning that piece of the pie are pushing forwards and saying that, let's just push the boundaries some more. Let's rise above these political differences. And that's why you have such a scenario where if a rape happens in Rajasthan, one side talks about it. If a rape happens, let's say in Haryana, some other side talks about it. You have to talk about a crime.
Yeah.
And that's not on your politics. It's about a crime. That is what I feel. So creating silos is one, and not being able to push for the cause to be prioritized. But everyone feels passionately about it.
Finally, where does Priyanka Chaturvedi see herself in future? Perhaps in 10 to 15 years from now. Of course, you cannot predict future, but you can also go through the crystal ball and see, because you have dreamt. APJ Abdul Kalam once told me that dreams transform thoughts into action, and they have for you. You've dreamt and been in the Rajya Sabha now. Where do you see yourself in 15 years from now?
That's a tough one because, 2 days prior to my leaving the Congress, I had done a massive press conference where I sang a song, and 2 days later, I had left the party. So I don't know where my journey will take me, and because political space is such an uncertain space where you feel you're doing brilliantly well today, and tomorrow you can be down in the doldrums. For example, when our party also split, suddenly there was this thing that hit us, that so many MLAs had chosen to leave. So those are things, politics you cannot predict. But I would only see myself as a very effective citizen of this country who believes passionately about India, who believes passionately that India is one of the global leaders which will decide the destiny of the world. And India is a country which has more responsibility towards ensuring that there is equity, there is inclusiveness, there is a feeling of empowerment. So I would be a citizen in whatever space that I'm in. Even if I'm a member of parliament, I see myself as a citizen of this country first. And that is how it will be in whatever role I get in life or whatever position I find myself in life.
Priyanka Chaturvedi, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.